In 2004, the video game industry seemed to be changing constantly at breakneck speed. The amount of massive, medium-altering titles coming out month to month is honestly ridiculous and dizzying looking back at it now. Halo 2, GTA San Andreas, KOTOR 2, the World of Warcraft, Star Wars Battlefront, the list goes on and on and on. This was an absolutely amazing time to be a kid playing video games, and I'm sure that my Christmas list must have been printed in multiple leather-bound volumes. A lot of those big-time games, they came out with a bang. They took the world, a specific fandom, by storm and are still talked about today as some of the titans of their respective genres. However, in this video we are going to be talking about something else, a much smaller, humble, yet important game released amongst all of those giants in the very same year. And while it is good, some might even say it's great, it's not remembered in quite the same way, because this game isn't one of those titans itself, but the predecessor to one of today's biggest and most beloved franchises. Well, you clicked on the video, didn't you? So you know that I am talking about Red Dead Revolver. This, my friends, is a game that I think needs to be talked about and remembered for what it was far more often. Because yes, of course, it took those first awkward steps toward the Red Dead Redemption games, and those are amazing, but also because it itself is a pretty decent and unique experience completely separate from its successors, but sadly one that seems to be slipping a tiny bit toward obscurity in the modern day. I mean, fellas, what we have here is a classic rootin' tootin' western with a great setting, a cold-as-ice protagonist, a strong cast of characters, surprisingly good action, ambitious cinematic moments, and utterly fantastic cowboy music. All of these elements combine to offer a game that is far from perfect, but still more than worthy of your time today, I can promise you that. So I wanted to take a real look back, give Red Dead Revolver a modern playthrough and see what makes it tick. Where does it succeed? Where does it fall short? And why does this man smile at me like this? Well, before we begin, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank all of my wonderful patrons who help by supporting me away from YouTube. You are all very much appreciated. And if this is by chance your first time finding my channel and you enjoy character analysis, video game lore, game reviews, and other stuff like that, you have found yourself in the right place. I am Ghost, your host as always, and without further ado, have a shot of whiskey, grab your cowboy hat and revolver, and let's go for a ride. Warning, there are spoilers ahead. So I always like to start off with the simple question. What is Red Dead Revolver? What is the overall goal, and when do I get to meet the funny British man? Well, whoa there, partner. One question at a time. Red Dead Revolver is a third-person Western action-adventure game set in 1880s America, and more specifically, set in the Wild Wild West, a lawless, dusty, unforgiving landscape full of outlaws, corruption, and bloodshed. The star of the show is Red Harlow, a bounty hunter with a chip on his shoulder and a tragic past, and his goal is very simple: revenge. But more on that later. So the game was released originally for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox, obviously back in 2004, but has since seen some modern digital releases on PS4, Xbox One, I think it's even on PlayStation 3, so it's readily available for play and dirt cheap across the board. While this is a Rockstar title, originally a smaller company known as Angel Studios was developing the project with backing from Capcom starting in the year 2000. However, by 2002, development was going a bit sour, and what they had was deemed unplayable and not fun, so production was halted. But just around that time, Rockstar's parent company purchased Angel Studios and converted it into Rockstar San Diego. Now, understandably, Rockstar was rather interested in this scrapped early build of a cowboy game. However, they didn't technically own any of the rights, because officially Capcom had canceled the game in 2003. But after some negotiations, a deal was worked out and the rights were transferred over to Rockstar. That new San Diego studio was tasked with completing their original work, and the rest is history. Something tells me Capcom is still punching the air to this day.
Who are you?
I'm the one that got away.
So So before we get into the nitty-gritty, I just want to make it clear that this video is not going to be a catalog of the things that influenced the Red Dead Redemption games. I think there are a handful of videos out there that take a look at Revolver with that lens already, and I really want to try to just review this game as it is, and we will talk a little bit about its legacy thereafter. Well, with any game, setting is key, and the first thing that stands out to me is how playful Red Dead Revolver is in its exploration of the Western setting. Because right when you boot up the game, you're not even playing yet. You get this very traditional spaghetti Western movie-style intro. And although the resolution is utter shit, it's showing off some locales, a little bit of action, and giving you a preview of each of the principal characters you are going to meet on your adventure. Almost like it's listing off the cast of a movie, and I mean looking at some of the intro sequences of classic Western films like Fistful of Dollars, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Day of Anger, the influence is extremely clear. And even going back to the Capcom days of development, the working title for the developers was SWAT, which stood for Spaghetti Western Action Team, so this is obviously a tone that was infused in the game very early on. But really quick, I think we need to define exactly what spaghetti Western is, because it is something specific and something special. This term originally comes from Sergio Leone and other Italian film directors taking over this genre in the 1960s, injecting the once corny as hell classic American-styled Westerns with grit, violence, and dark anti-hero protagonists. Desolate landscapes, themes of greed, corruption, betrayal, and murder. I mean, this is damn good source material for a video game. But I mentioned a playfulness with Revolver's spaghetti, and that is certainly true, because the setting here in-game is decidedly dialed back a bit. While all those themes I just mentioned are definitely intact, the graphics and visuals lend themselves to goofy moments and lightheartedness as well, and I think it's a really nice mix. The setting overall, honestly, is really comfortable to me. It feels grounded and intentional, but also kind of loose and arcadey, which informs a lot of the experience overall, for better or for worse. It's kind of reminiscent of like Team Fortress 2, or maybe even the Time Splitters games, and overall just feels like playing cowboy with your buddies in a hot summer day back in the 3rd grade, while also still being able to tell a dark enough story. It's good stuff. So for our spaghetti Western video game experience, we need a few key things, right? We need blood, and lots of it. We need an anti-hero made in the image of Clint Eastwood, and we need a tale of vengeance. Well, Red Dead Revolver sticks to simplicity when it comes to the story setup here, and I think that there's going to be very little that will shock or amaze you. You start out controlling Red Harlow as a boy. His daddy has just come back from being away somewhere, and he's got great news. He struck it rich with his business partner, found a gold mine, and life is about to be amazing for the whole family. He then flashes this really nice pistol and tells his son,
"One day this fine weapon will be yours."
So you know immediately that your dad's gonna be dead in the next 5 minutes, right? I mean, this ain't my first rodeo, boy. But interesting early detail, Red's mom, known as Falling Star, is Native American. That would make Red, of course, half and half, which is a nice setup for future events in the game, as well as kind of a classic cornerstone to this type of protagonist. A man who will never fully fit in with anyone or any one camp, destined to drift between worlds, riding the line as a lone wolf. Honestly, I would say Red overall is key to the entire experience of Revolver. Having this silent, hard, and traditional cowboy at the helm allows him to carry the narrative with a cold, uncaring focus, and also leaves a little bit of wiggle room for us to have some self-insert cowboy fantasy. It's really good. So anyway, you head down to the river as a kid to learn the controls, and what do you know? Your humble homestead is soon under siege. Within minutes, your family is being overrun, fighting for their lives, and sadly, your folks are gunned down. Red, mourning over their bodies, is approached by this drill sergeant-looking guy, and he reaches for his father's gilded pistol sitting in the fire. Bang! Shoots the guy's arm clean off, but brands his hand in the process. Red is then somehow able to escape, and we get this nice little shot of his bloodied paw, which would later become a fabled weapon of justice itself. So I think this intro is a nice little microcosm of the game and how its storytelling is going to work. It's very quick. Characters jump in and out at will, and everything is extremely heightened. This is not a game that sits in any of those quiet in-between moments. It's action, action, action all the time, almost like a comic book or old cartoon. So the story then leaps forward in time to find Red a man, scarred, weathered, hardened by the life of solitude he has lived since his parents were killed. It seems he has made a living as a skilled bounty hunter and is a man of very, very few words. So my first little complaint here. It is completely unclear what the aim is at the beginning of the game. It feels like controlling Red is a series of events you happen to be floating to and from with little motive or direction. I mean, it's never outright said or shown or even implied that he is interested in revenge, finding the one-armed man, reclaiming his homestead, nothing. Just that he's a bounty hunter and you kind of show up places. Which is alright, I guess, if there's at least something we feel like we are doing narratively, but even that is pretty sparse for the first little while. So one thing I think the game struggles with early on is just that context, and this is where that arcadiness I think really comes in. For example, the first mission here, you get to meet this trader guy out of nowhere who's getting shaken down by some ruffians. So you buy some stuff and then take down the bad guys, but the boss at the end of the level is these three brothers. I don't know who these guys are, I don't have any beef with them, the trader doesn't really say anything about them or warn us, but here I am fighting Tom, Oaf, and George. Who? For who all I know could be perfectly cool dudes, right? Now, of course, they're assholes who are wanted for murder, but I want to know that going in. Just give me one sentence, anything, really. Give this fight the slightest amount of context. Now believe me, ordinarily I would have no problem. I love simplicity in my games, man, I don't need much. This is only an issue to me because as the game progresses, it's clear that it does want to tell a real compelling story. Kind of an epic western thing with flashback missions, multiple perspectives, layers of corruption, all that jazz. And I ultimately really do enjoy the story that gets told, so the parts of the game that have zero context or narrative definitely feel flat and kind of floaty and weird. I mean, who the fuck is Grizzly? Why am I killing him right now? What's he doing on this stick? Who? But it's also worth mentioning that there is a lot of extra information to be found in the journal, which you can add pages to by buying items in the in-game general store, and that gives a ton of details on pretty much every single character in the game, every faction, every location, but it would be great if a few of those things at least leaked into the actual gameplay experience. Because to get to the journal, you have to go through the main menu of the game. You can't even access it for reference while you're playing. Well, anyway, after a few missions, you do meet this fat old sheriff who needs to be taken to the town of Brimstone, so you help him safely make it there by train, and then you are finally set on a sort of path. Brimstone acts like a nice little hub home base, and the local sheriff here says, "Hey, I know you're looking for work, bounty hunter." So off you go to bounty hunt, meet some allies, pick up clues, and all of a sudden, you find yourself on the heels of the men responsible for your family's demise. So just like that, you do get to sink your teeth into something, and it gives each mission from here on out a lot more weight, and I definitely get properly invested and wanted to track those bastards down, seeing how all of the characters I met along the way would play a role. And that is another really unique thing about the game's delivery of the story, is that you're going to be going along as Red, and after meeting a specific side character, the next mission will be in their shoes. Now I think this is really damn cool. And talking about all this influence from Western films, these feel like side scenes for context, and a way to show us why this person is going to be important. So you got Jack Swift, the British sharpshooter who kind of owes you after you save his life. You got Annie Stokes, who wants to bring the local corruption to an end to protect her ranch. Red's cousin Shadow Wolf, who wants to try to break you out of jail later on. And Buffalo Soldier, a war veteran who really wants to always help out and do the right thing. I mean, these characters add a really nice touch narratively, and I really like how it's presented. And shockingly, at one point you even get to control one of the villains, back in time to give a bit of background on who the bad guys really are and how they got together. So okay, the bad guys, the villains. We all know how much I like to talk about characters like that on my channel. I mean, it's kind of what I enjoy the most. And I would say Red Dead Revolver has a little bit of a villain problem, in that there are just too many cooks in the kitchen. Now maybe I'm nitpicking here and being a little bit of a bitch, but there are 3 characters that end up opposing you in such a way that makes them seem like the big bad guy to chase down, with then several smaller villains who get kind of lost in the shuffle. Now, again, ordinarily, I would say this is a good thing, layered evil, not a big deal. But this game, my friends, is very short, like several hours short. And having that bad guy baton passed down the line so frequently is kind of annoying. You know, I want there to be a focus from the jump. A dickwad of a villain gloating and goading me toward a final encounter, but instead we got Darren, the one-armed guy, Diego, the Mexican army general who's super corrupt, and you got Governor Griffin. Now, spoiler alert, this is your dad's old partner who had half a stake in the gold mine they found, then sold your entire family out to save his own skin, so he is the one we want. But for me, it takes a little bit too long to get there. And then as I mentioned, there's the smaller minions like Mr. Kelly, who's really cool. He seems really evil and cool design, but you instantly forget about him because there are so many other fish to fry, with only so many missions to cram the story in. So it feels like instead of really getting to know and hate one bad bastard, we kinda know and sorta hate 3 of them. It could be done better, I think. But listen, all of that aside, I really do enjoy the story told here. I only pick it apart because I like it and see ways it could be made that much better. But I assure you that if you played today for the first time, you would find a lot of classic Western enjoyment in all of its campiness and cinematic qualities. And when all is said and done, Red walks off into the sunset, leaving us with the coldest and most badass line in the history of the Red Dead franchise.
It never was about the money.
Now, one thing that shines across the entire game, however, without any hiccups, is the visual presentation. Every single inch of this game feels like pure cowboy western. The fonts, the set pieces, the menus, the interiors, the exteriors, the film grain they literally throw over the entire thing, the cinematic black bars on the top and bottom of the screen, the way the camera comes in tight during the duel sections, the epic scale of the train sequences. I mean, for a fucking PlayStation 2 game, they really swang for the fences and made this feel like a blockbuster movie. It's very impressive to me, even to this day. I mean, one of my biggest issues overall with modern video games is the lack of this sort of visual flavor. Just a random example, but The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Look at this menu. I mean, this is a frigid northern land of Nordic culture and history, and this shit looks like an Apple device. It's so boring. I mean, where is the art? Meanwhile, Oblivion is out here having you sift through libraries to change your shoes. Now that's what I'm talking about, baby. There's just a sense of commitment when you are the one playing a game like this. You know, it feels like, damn, they went all in on this theme, so I'm all in too. You know, it's immersive as hell in that specific way, even if the graphics are a little bit dated. And I guess that's one thing people have kind of held against this game since it released, is that it has some fellow PS2 and Xbox games that just simply outclass it in graphical fidelity across the board, which, I mean, it's true. Look at Metroid Prime 2. It came out the same year on the underpowered GameCube, and that looks way better, but it's definitely important to remember that bit of troubled development Revolver had, especially when it comes to technical things like this. Plus, that kind of cartoony art style helps to preserve it a bit, and honestly, I just don't care about graphics, man. And finally, on presentation, I just really like the way, in such a linear game, they made it feel almost like little episodes or chapters of a book. Each mission feels like this old Sunday radio program from 100 years ago where it's like, "Who will Red Harlow track down today? Could it be Bad Bessie? Or maybe Pig Josh? Find out after this message." Now, all of that eye candy is propped up masterfully by honestly one of the most incredible slappin' ass soundtracks I have heard in some time. I'm not sure if it's better than the Red Dead Redemption game's OSTs, but you know what, I'm gonna say it. It is better. Because interestingly, this soundtrack was not created by anyone at Rockstar. These are not original songs, but instead officially licensed Italian spaghetti western film soundtracks, most of which date back to the 1950s, the 1960s. Thus, Revolver is chock full of music by legendary composers like Francisco De Masi, Piero Piccioni, and goddamn Ennio Morricone. Their work does absolute wonders here in-game to up the scale, the scope of everything we are doing. Now, I have always said that video game soundtracks are one of the most important things to get right. Fans will be listening to these and remembering their time with the game for years and years to come. And Red Dead Revolver simply would not be the game that it is without these songs. So well done, Rockstar. Whoever the hell over there got the rights holders to let you use this music, well done. Now, all right, hold the phone. This is a video game. So how does it feel to play Red Dead Revolver? Brother, it feels good. It feels damn good. I would say there is a smoothness, a responsive, kinetic, enjoyable nature to this game that is hard to describe. Whipping around your arsenal of cowboy weaponry just flat out feels fun. Landing a headshot, seeing that stream of blood shoot into the air so you know you hit your target, rolling out of danger at the last moment to quick turn pump lead into your enemy. Oh baby, I want to go play it again right now. Now the setup for gameplay is very simple, Before each mission, you have a chance to select your weapons: a pistol, a ranged weapon, and then something to throw. Each one comes with a set amount of ammunition and will degrade after heavy use, but repairing it is extremely easy, and this is honestly just a formality. And as you go along, you will have the chance to unlock new weapons with varying stats, reload speeds, etc. by finding them on the ground or purchasing them with money. And money is something you are earning so long as you are shooting bad guys. Every time you land a shot, you will see your counter in the corner here go up. But beyond that, how well you perform on a given mission will also give you certain bonuses, even unlock improvements for red, extra goodies, and cash. It's a really simple system that just rewards you naturally as you go along. You are never going to have to grind for anything in Red Dead Revolver, and I very much appreciate that. So practically everything takes place just over the shoulder, gun in hand and sights clearly swinging around towards your targets. There is a basic cover system, of course, so you can take refuge behind tables, wagons, whatever. And then there are small sections where you might get on a turret or a horse or something, but those are few and far between. Additionally, Red is equipped with a few special abilities, namely the Deadeye meter below your health bar. This is of course a staple of the later titles, but here it's as simple as hitting R2, picking your spots, and then letting her rip. However, you remember those side characters you can play as? Well, each of them has their own completely unique ability, making each of their missions even more interesting and fun to explore the first time through. It's sweet. Honestly, it feels like with how straightforward gameplay is, but how fun its DNA happens to be, that this is the Capcom part of development that remained. To be frank, Rockstar wasn't doing anything close to this in San Andreas, which came out the very same calendar year. Now, another key mechanic is often reserved for the more tense or story-heavy moments, and that's the duel. It has a bit of a learning curve, but consists of you whipping the right stick back to front like you're playing Skate 3, and then lining up and timing your shots before your opponent does. So the yellow thing is a miss, the red is a hit, and the tight red one is a critical. During the Battle Royale missions, for example, the duels are extremely tough, and you will fuck up and die several times before you get it right, but it's such a super flavorful thing that gives a really nice resonance to certain moments within the story, so I think it's awesome. So we've been talking about these missions, and many missions start like this. You need to go get this bad guy. So you load into an area, kill a wave of goons, cutscene plays. Kill another wave of goons, cutscene plays. The boss comes out, you kill the boss. But there are others that are more objective based, and then in between these missions, you are most often plopped back down in Brimstone, where you can mill about, take a breather, talk to the ugly ass locals, and check out what's in stock in the shops before heading on to the next one. Though at times the gameplay can feel a bit like a boss rush, with each one having a different arena, abilities, and strategies you need to employ and whatnot. I would say none of them are overly complicated, but all of them are fun to fight and satisfying when you finally kill them. The couple even gave me some serious trouble, kicked my ass a few times, and I had to reassess how I was going to approach them. A good challenge that felt fair, like I had to morph what I was doing to the situation to overcome it, and I like that. But man, there are other parts that are challenging just because they are awkwardly designed dookie water. However, one gripe I have gameplay-wise, which I guess is more of a gripe overall, is the linearity we are talking about here. While it has its merits, this is the Wild West, man. Wide open spaces. I want to be able to ride a horse around, explore a little bit, and just wander. Even if it's just an illusion of freedom, that's fine. Where you have me walk around the desert in the loading screen, kind of like Assassin's Creed did back in the day. There's just a slightly claustrophobic nature to this game that I think shouldn't be present in a true Western setting. I feel like I'm only free in Brimstone, but the place is so tiny and there's only so much to do before you head out on your next mission. Okay, you know what? It's a short game, and I have been talking so much about these goddamn missions. Plus, I'm insane. You're talking to the guy who made an hour-and-a-half long video about Mike the Liar. So I'm gonna speedrun and just go through all 27 missions to give an extremely quick breakdown on what I think and then rate out of 10. So listen, if you want to skip ahead to the more structured parts of the video, be my guest. I almost encourage you to. I won't be offended, because this will be a disjointed mess, full of spoilers, but I just feel like I gotta do this. But I'll need an assistant. Pubesworth? Pubesworth?
Yes, master.
Everybody, I'd like to introduce you to my butler. This is Pubesworth. Pubesworth, my good man, start the timer.
But of course, master.
Number 1, Bullseye. Tutorial, story stuff, straightforward, and sets you up to understand the basics pretty well. 8 out of 10. Number 2, Bounty Hunter. This is the one with the 3 brothers, narratively lacking, but introduces the cover mechanics, dead eye, and a quick, fun, violent romp overall. Plus, you meet this recurring trader guy who's pretty funny. 6 out of 10. Number 3, Ugly Street Fight. Some assholes shoot your dog and you murder everyone in town who's breathing. The little area you fight in here is amazing. It makes you really feel like Batman, a cowboy. It introduces the duel mechanic, and the final boss's name is literally ugly. 10 out of 10. Number 4, Train Car. This is a super short one. You're taking that fat sheriff to Brimstone and you can interact with various passengers on your car. Some of them are funny, but one happens to be in on a bandit heist that is about to occur. You have a little duel with him, take him out, and move to the next mission. Short but flavorful as hell. 9 out of 10. Number 5, Railroaded. This is maybe the game's best. An epic, impressive bandit attack on a moving train. You get up top, work your way forward to save the day. The sense of danger, movement, and scale is great. Then you have to protect the conductor at the end for a little while, and it can be really difficult. A white knuckler. 10 out of 10. Number 6, Carnival Life. First bounty mission in Brimstone to kill some carnies. This consists of killing dwarf clowns, saving Jack Swift, and then killing Pig Josh, who kamikazes you with TNT. The turret the game really wants you to use here is dog shit, because the dwarf clowns just stand on either side of you and shoot the shit out of your kidneys. The level design is also cramped and not fun to traverse at all. 3 out of 10. Number 7, Freak Show. Jack Swift mission. Shows his beef with the carnival dudes. Really cool that it takes place at night, and the visual cue for the villain Perry is his glowing green bottle. You gotta protect this lady who's tied up while killing more dwarf clowns and other guys while gunning down Perry, who teleports around rooftops. I love this one. 9 out of 10. Number 8, Rogue Valley. This mission has a lot of verticality, long-range combat, cool setting amongst the rocks. It's really challenging, and the end has you fighting Bad Bessie, which for me was one of the hardest boss fights in the game. You also get to run back into that funny traitor guy, and he gets domed in the head. Really good setting, straightforward and memorable. 8 out of 10. Number 9, Ghost Town. Last of the 3 bounty hunting tasks here early on, tracking down a guy named Mr. Black. This is maybe the best setting of all, the entire game. An abandoned town falling apart, spooky as shit. The level is essentially just the main strip down the middle, but it's classic Western stuff. The final boss is just Mr. Black's minion, but man, this is Red Dead Revolver at its absolute best. 10 out of 10. Number 10, The Cemetery. This is just a boss fight against Mr. Black in a graveyard, and he's really cool looking boss who takes a minigun out of a casket. You gotta hide behind these tombstones that are breaking from the bullets. This is incredible. No notes. More like this, please. 10 out of 10. Number 11, Range War. Time to meet Annie Stokes and protect her land from the governor's men who are trying to seize it. Honestly, this mission sucks ass. So much of it's just long-range rifle shooting off in the distance. It's like a fairgrounds game. It's just boring and needlessly long. The boss fight at the end is kind of cool with these 2 jackasses on bulls, but it's not the best. 4 out of 10. Number 12, Bar Fight. Now I'm slowing down for this one considerably. This is absolutely terrible, horrible, traumatic, worst in the entire game, and I am not exaggerating at all. Red heads for a drink and overhears some bandits talking about the one-armed man, so he asks for more information. Then a brawl breaks out, and it is just, I hate it. I hate it so much. It's not even clear why these fools start attacking the women who work in the bar, but you gotta protect them, and you have no weapons, and you just get thrown around with this terrible animation. The camera is awful, and the dudes steal the women and take them upstairs to beat them up. You don't know which name corresponds to which woman. It takes forever to kill each enemy. It's an absolute stinker. And that's just the first half, boy. You then have to head downstairs to take down those shit-talking brothers, and I mean, this area is cool, it's like a little stage, but shooting these guys, especially the big boss, from down in this pit and trying to aim up into this fucking dark balcony, it is just abysmal. This entire mission made my dick fall off permanently. It's difficult in all the wrong ways. 0 out of 10. Alright, let's speed it back up. Number 13, The Traitor. This mission has you controlling the villain, General Diego, which is certainly novel. It's a flashback. The gameplay itself is alright. Diego shoots flares to have his cannons blow up the American cannons, and then you take out a bridge. Feels strangely disjointed from the surrounding missions, but it's good to finally get some substantial story elements in place. It's 6 out of 10. Number 14, Sunset Canyon. This is a super short mission in a really nice area where you just shoot the hell out of this thing. It's simple as that. You get to hop on a horse, which is pretty cool, and at the end, Red gets dramatically bopped on the head and imprisoned by the bad guys. This one's alright. 7 out of 10. Number 15, Bear Mountain. Oh, I like this one. At last, you get to control Shadow Wolf as he sees Red get captured. You sneak through riverbeds and valleys under cover of darkness and quietly assassinate these fools with a bow and arrow. It's such a great change of pace from the rest of the game, and it really stands out in a good way. Again, though, who the fuck is Grizzly? 9 out of 10. Number 16, Jailbreak. Very different and cool in some ways, not so much fun in others. Trying to sneak through the gold mine, in theory it's cool, but not a mission I would ever replay by choice. You have a map you have to access via the pause menu, and health packs are scarce, so it's pretty hard. It's super dark, and the enemies feel like they have a better version of the cover mechanics than I do. 5 out of 10. Number 17, The Mine. Though a separate mission, this is just a boss fight at the end of your escape. It's alright, the arena's cool, and Tony loves his fire. 7 out of 10. Number 18 and 19, The Stagecoach and Hell's Pass. This is Buffalo Soldier's time to shine, and his missions are just simple on-rail shooters shooters. It's cinematic, and the one-shot kill mechanic makes it really fun each time you pick a dude off. It's very satisfying. It's arcadey, but I like it. At the end, Buffalo gets captured by the governor, 8 out of 10. Pubesworth, my good man, how am I doing on time?
You're taking quite a long time, Master.
Ah, shit. Number 20, Fort Diego. Here you and Shadow Wolf regroup after escaping the mine and are pinned down by some Gatling gun fire outside of Diego's base of operations. You gotta go through, circle around, control the courtyard, and then Colonel Darren shows up to make his big appearance for a memorable fight. Shadow Wolf dies, and Red sticks a goddamn knife in Darren and walks out, 9 out of 10. Number 21, End of the Line. Oh baby, another train mission. But this one has you on horseback, leaping on and off this beast that Diego's inside of. The cinematic quality of this mission alone makes it a winner, 10 out of 10. Number 22, Devils and Angels. The General Diego fight. To be honest, of the 3 big bad guys, this is my least favorite boss fight. He's hiding inside this train and firing a fucking nuke at you every so often with these soldiers spitting at you from the side. It's really annoying and hard though, 7 out of 10. Number 23, Battle Royale. Fortnite. So all game you've been hearing about this competition to take place in Brimstone, and it's time for it to begin. It's not a game though, because this is a shootout to the death. It feels strange pacing-wise to have this after the death of so many principal characters, but here it is, and it's extremely hard. This kid, my god, he kicked my fucking ass. It's fun, it's challenging, and flavorful, 9 out of 10. Number 24, Battle Finale. Day 2 of the Royale. The governor takes over operations and pits you against Mr. Kelly, his goon. This shit is next level difficult for me anyway, the hardest part of the entire game. He then runs away and starts shooting townsfolk in the face when you win, and for some reason, the goddamn mob starts following you around instead of ducking for cover and looking to get hit. It's hard at first, and then it's just frustrating. It could have been cool, but 6 out of 10. And finally, chapters 25, 26, and 27, The Siege. The last few missions are only chopped up to give you checkpoints, and this is the end, baby. The final attack on Griffin. It's epic in scale, and it feels cool to be at this tidy, groomed mansion, a stark contrast from the rest of the game. The challenge is very real here because you have to protect all your friends as well as yourself. There are bosses in every other room, and finally you get to the roof and fight Griffin. This is also a very tough fight and ends appropriately with a duel for the ages, 10 out of 10. Whew, all right. Got that all out of my system.
Would you like me to give your shoulders a nice little massage, Master?
Why, yes I would, thank you, Pubesworth. I'm sorry if that was a nightmare to sit through, but because the game is so simple and linear, it just felt like the best way for me to make sure I got to say truly everything I needed to say. So at last, when Red and the hunt for vengeance is completed, there is still more to be enjoyed with Red Dead Revolver. By beating the game, not only do you unlock higher difficulty settings, which are kind of brutal, but you also probably have unlocked a lot of what are called showdown characters. And showdown is, to me, the most welcome thing ever here. A split-screen multiplayer madness mode where you can just shoot it out with your buddies. There are 48 playable characters and 13 arenas pulled directly from the story mode. I mean, man, there's a ton of content here. Every single character has different unique abilities and starting weapons. There are power-ups like ice damage, snake oil, faster reload. I mean, this is madness. There's also a unique mechanic of building up a hand of cards by killing players that lead to certain power-ups being granted or weapons. 3 different game modes. I was very surprised with how extensive the showdown mode really is. It's pretty cool stuff. And I know I mentioned it earlier, but also that journal, dude. If you're buying all the journal page items as you go along, which are rather cheap, there's a ton of entertainment to be had after you're done with the game by just sitting down and reading through this thing. It's supposed to be the journal of the Brimstone Sheriff, so it kind of has his flavor, his character all over it. Funny commentary, notes in the margins, and a really great authentic presentation. I mean, the journal adds a lot more than it has any right to. I enjoy it. Fellas, I really do enjoy this game. I do. It has its fair share of issues, of course, every game does, but the simple fun to be had here should not be understated. It's a cowboy game that delivers on exactly what it sets out to do. However, if I could change things about it to improve the experience, here's a little list. I would streamline the villains a little bit. I would get the story started earlier to avoid those weird floaty early missions. I would add more enemy variety. I would make some of the levels physically bigger with stuff to discover. I would completely remove the goddamn bar fight level, holy shit. I would let players customize their outfits a little bit with unlockable cosmetic ponchos and other cowboy hats. And finally, I would maybe throw in a challenge mode for each mission where you have to complete certain things with restrictions, no weapons, only certain weapons, time limits to unlock more showdown characters or weapons. It would fit in with the arcadey energy here. Then bada bing, I think it goes from very good to great. Now at the beginning of this video, I mentioned all these other games that were great that released in 2004, right? And how Revolver kind of slid under the radar in comparison. Well, to be honest, I kind of feel like Under the Radar is right where it belonged, and I don't mean that negatively at all. That generation of consoles was an absolute golden age, if you ask me. The amount of bangers on these systems is absurd. I mean, I would say with confidence that there are dozens of PS2 and Xbox games that I kind of like more. Games that are just better, more polished, and more fun than Red Dead Revolver to me, and again, that really is not a knock, just a testament to the strength of that era. And that brings me back to the title of this video. This game to me is proof that amongst those second-tier games, there are still quality gems to be found and enjoyed. While all of us are so obsessed with playing the classics or the next big game coming out on the newest console, there are hundreds of them, just like Red Dead Revolver, sitting there for like $10 that are awesome. Now, of course, before we wrap up here, we gotta talk about Red Dead Redemption at least for a moment. So the first Redemption game came out in 2010, which was 6 years after Revolver, and it is a spiritual successor through and through, not a sequel or continuation of the events or characters at all. Although there are a couple shout-outs to the legend of Red Harlow, which is pretty cool, but in those 6 years, Rockstar had become one of the biggest studios in the entire industry, and it is so cool to me that of all their early weird properties, they decided to throw a big budget at the strange little Red Dead Revolver for a sort of soft reboot. With all the modern fixings of the time, an open world, a wanted system, incredible story, great writing, I mean damn. That game is amazing, as is its direct sequel Red Dead Redemption 2, but neither of those record-breaking, award-winning, awe-inspiring games would have the backbone that they do without Revolver. Seriously. That fateful day back in 2000 whatever when Rockstar bought Angel Studios should go in the video game Hall of Fame, as it symbolizes the day that Capcom quite possibly fucked up a little bit and let one of the biggest franchises today slip through their fingers. But of course, it wouldn't be what it is without Rockstar's hands. So before I give this game my final score, just a note about my scoring system here. I know that some people don't like that I even give games numbers at all, and others might be expecting those numbers to line up with other reviewers like IGN or something, where anything under an 8 means the game is a disaster. But for me, it's 1 to 100, with 50 being the most average, non-offensive to the senses game imaginable. So with that in mind, by the powers invested in me, I bestow the score of a 76 on Red Dead Revolver. It's a damn good game, and I think if you're an enjoyer of the modern Red Dead games, you owe it to yourself to go back to the beginning and see where it all started. Also, always remember that mileage may vary. The things that I take issue with might not bug you one bit. And beyond just Red Dead fanboys, I think anyone who enjoys this era of gaming, spaghetti westerns, shoot-em-ups, or just difficult experiences in general will find tons of enjoyment here in Revolver. I absolutely recommend it. So it's about that time again, guys, and I just wanted to thank all of you who watched or listened to the end. It always means a lot. I know many people who subscribe to my channel likely showed up for the Hero and Villainpedia videos, but I will always really enjoy making these reviews. And as long as they keep getting such great responses from all of you, they will keep coming. So thanks again, everyone. Shout out to all of my patrons once again, and I will see you all very soon. Until next time, peace.